Welcome to the Undefined Leader, where we reimagine leadership, redefine work, and get curious. Are you someone that maybe just got promoted into a management role or a supervisor leadership role? Or maybe you're someone that is in a leadership role, but you just got hired for a brand new team, a team you haven't met that you haven't led before. I know prepping up for those moments that first day could be a lot of fear, excitement, so many uncertainties and unknowns. And the first few days and how you create an impression with your new team is really, really critical. So, this episode, we're going to talk about what young leaders or new leaders make mistakes on, how to avoid them, and maybe we'll come up with some tips and tricks along the way. Derek, do you remember being a young leader? First time leading a team and maybe what mistakes you've made along the way?
Like it was yesterday. Yeah, no, I in different, in the different, leadership roles I've had, I know for me, I would say like a big mistake, and it's still a temptation to now, but I'm more aware of it and I don't worry about it so much. It's just to feel like you have to like come in and prove something right away. Like you need to come in and be like this rock star or um go, way faster than you should or, "Hey, I'm gonna show everyone how smart I am by making all these changes," and, we just did an episode on people don't respond well to, our previous episode to change, so all you're gonna do is come in and create, like, low trust or fear or pain, even though you think that maybe that's how you're gonna prove yourself that now you're in this spot, you need to make all these changes, and so I've definitely learned that that's a mistake. What about you?
That's the same for me too. I mean, the first time I officially became a leader, so my title was manager, I was 25 years old and I was managing a team of 10 people, and everyone was 50 years old, 40 years old. And I remember having a lot of imposter syndrome going into that role. And I just felt like I had to prove myself to the team why I should be in that role and why they should trust me and respect me. And looking back at it, I'm like, wow, what an egotistical thing. Like it's all about me and trying to prove myself. But I remember in the process of trying to prove myself, I came in kind of hot, where not necessarily making change wise, but not asking enough questions,
Mm,
not listening,
mhm.
and trying to have the answers for everything. And if I didn't have the answer, not necessarily being authentic that I didn't have the answer and going and figuring it out before anybody else figured out that I don't know what I'm doing. That's a very stressful place to be when you're trying to prove yourself. And guess what? Your team knows it and they
Mhm.
could feel it. So if you're a new leader, learn from Derek and my mistakes. You are in that position for a reason. And maybe step one, the first tip we can think of is don't focus too much on yourself and trying to prove yourself. It's about your team now.
Yeah, I think and while doing that, communicate that you're doing it too, right? Communicate that, "Hey, everyone, I'm Derek, I'm new here, and I'm just gonna learn and listen. You guys are the experts on the team, you've been here longer. I need to learn, to be the best leader for you. I first need to learn what it is that each of you do. I need to learn, what your strengths are and how the team works together. I need to learn the culture." Yeah, I think, like, communicate that again versus, "Here's my 8-step plan," of of
And
of
we're going to do all of it this month.
yeah, and maybe you do have a plan because you've done this before and you know why you're there or it's been handed down to you, but you don't need to lead and come in hot like you were saying with that, you need to listen, so that later, now you've got the buy-in and the trust and you understand how things work, and now you can, fix whatever you need to fix, whatever. There's different reasons why you're even there in that position in the first place, so I think kinda like starting there, you need to understand why you're there.
Yeah. I like what you said because that's exactly where I would start. If I was a leader for the first time with a team, the very first thing I would do is definitely be curious and listen. So get to know the people. And my number one focus there would be build trust first. I think if you build trust, that's a very good foundation to start off the relationship with. And then all the other things will happen along the way. But without trust, it is so difficult to have a cohesive team where everyone feels safe and works well together and gets results at the same time. And do that even if you were on that team and you got promoted, and maybe you know everyone that you work with, still get to know them and be curious because now your roles have changed. Now the things and the conversations that you may not have had when you were a coworker versus now their manager has changed. So don't assume that just because you know this person for a long time, that you also know their answers towards leadership as well.
Yeah, I like that. When you this is something I've been able to implement better now, when I've moved it because I'm aware, right? I learned from my mistakes, I became aware and have been able to do a better job at listening first. And then if I think if you do a good job listening, one of the first acts one of your official acts can be to solve some type of like crazy pain that everyone, even if it's just like like a little micro win, right? But like, you just listen and you're consistently hearing, something, and maybe it's in your power or ability to actually do something about that. Maybe the previous leader just instituted the thing that everyone hates or kind of ignored it. And now you can come in and take care of, I mean, just something even simple about like a flexible start time or like the day of the week that the all hands, or the team meeting is, or the time. You can just do something like very simple. Now you're a hero, right? Because you listen though, and you
Mhm.
uncovered something, and you took care of it a little. I think like finding that little micro victory is good.
You're building credibility. You're showing them that I'm asking these questions and I'm listening because I'm actually going to implement something.
Mhm.
Not like I'm not doing it just because someone gave me a list of go ask these questions during one-on-ones to your team. I'm asking because I'm actually going to do something about it. And that's how credibility starts. And that's a big part of how trust starts too. And now you're showing your team that, hey, if I tell Alex something, I know she's going to do something about it. And if she's not going to be able to do something about it, she's going to tell me she can't do something about it.
Yeah, this overall as a topic is interesting to me in a different normally the most I think about this is actually in sports. So this, even though this is a business topic and this is really applicable to like our careers and things like that, if you have any interest in following like a sports team or sports in general, I just feel like this is something that you can't avoid, and that like teams fire their coaches all the time. And so then a brand new coach, a lot of times, they're not gonna, because it was bad, they're not going to promote from within. They need to do kind of like a reset. So they're going to bring someone in from a completely different organization. And I'm just always fascinated by kind of like how they do that, of how they come in, how they talk, how they maybe make some roster or personnel changes, and then what happens in that very first kind of season afterwards. I'm just so fascinated by it because you have, I think, different skills. And I think this is where like a lot of times why the teams are firing so much is they don't understand the skill that they need from the new person that they're bringing in. And then I think going back to business, a lot of businesses make mistakes on who they put into that role because they don't understand the skill or the need necessarily of that person coming into that team.
Or they know the skill, they put the person that with the right skill in that position, but they don't realize how long it takes to take a team that's not performing to a team that is performing, to take a team that doesn't trust each other, that's not safe, to a team that is trusting each other. If you're our listener, not a sports fan like me, I'm just picturing Ted Lasso the entire time that you were speaking. And that's what he did. He had the skill, but guess what? He could have been fired in the end of season one or whatever. But the manager realized it's going to take time. The skill that's needed is going to take time. And what was the first thing Ted Lasso did? Build trust.
Yeah. Um, just to make a reference, right, to, there's a really good book, the the first 90 days, I think it's by Michael Watkins, which is considered like the standard handbook to read for being a new manager. What I remember, I read it a long time ago. Something that I remembered from it that made us think about this when it relates to the skill Again, um, and it's the STAR method, so maybe I can remember it because of the acronym of the STAR, but it's basically like startup is a skill. That's someone who can come in and create something that doesn't exist. Turnaround. So what you said, Ted Lasso, that was the skill that they essentially needed from him was to turn around something. The A is acceleration. So something that's maybe not even bad. It's kind of already there, but now we need to accelerate it and scale it. R is realignment. So we need to we're like stagnant and we need to do something. And then stars S is us sustaining. That's a different skill. So that would be like maybe it's an amazing successful team or organization and the person retires. So if you bring like a startup person now into that, that's bad. Or you bring a turnaround person into that. Instead, we actually need to bring in a leader or a coach whose skill is at sustaining what is already working.
Good job. How did you remember that? I can't even remember if I read that book or not.
That's when you study memory and mnemonic devices like that's the secret is you got to get a good acronym. Otherwise, there's no chance of ever.
Yeah, that does nothing for me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good. So skill is important. So going back to if you're a new leader and you're put in that position, I do think one of the first things before you even meet your team is knowing who you are as a leader. And part of that is knowing what your skill is, what your strengths are, what situation you're getting into. Does your strength and your skills align with the situation and the context that you're going into? Also, knowing your areas of improvement. What are you not great at? What does the situation might need? And being aware of those things before they happen and then being able to be authentic and communicate those or improve your skills in order to do that, I think is really important. Also, knowing yourself as a leader, knowing your values,
Yup.
knowing going into this team, what does winning look like? What am I going into? What is the purpose of this? What norms do I want to put in place in this team for it to be successful? And so what are things that I'm going to tolerate and not tolerate? So I think those are all really important things to know about yourself. And if you're a new leader and you really don't know any of these, I mean, there's so many, like Myers-Briggs and Clifton Strength Finder, and there's so many resources out there that you can take, and it's a very good start. But also be kind to yourself and remember that failing is a part of the journey and failing is a part of how you find out what kind of leader you are.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Derek and I failed, we came in hot and we tried to prove ourselves. And now, if we were put in that same position years later, the first thing we're going to do is it's not about us anymore. And we're listening and being curious instead.
Yeah, and I think with each of those different skills that I kind of outlined, like what you were saying, you need to know yourself, and you need to know which one you have the tendency towards, and which one you're being expected to do in the team. Because I think part of my coming in hot was I feel like of those five, my skill set is a bit more on the turnaround, where I like to fix things that are broken and like I create new ways of doing things, like brainstorm new processes. Let's get rid of the process that doesn't work. Let's put in the one. So I'm a little bit more wired for the turnaround. And I think that's the one where I'm gonna get into the most trouble because it's like, hey, I'm here to fix this. And again, that's great. That's maybe why you're there. But yeah, if you just coming in, like what message is that sending to the people if you're here like, hey, good news, everybody. Your savior's here. I know I'm going to come in. Yeah, the credibility and the trust is going to be off to a very bad start.
Yeah. Also, think of what the team is feeling. Put our feelings as a leader aside. What is the team feeling? If they have a brand new boss, the first thing they're probably feeling is fear. It might be coupled with like anxiety, excitement, like there could be a lot of different emotions, but there are a lot of emotions that they're feeling because that is going to directly impact their day to day, how they feel about their job, how they feel about their team, and if they want to show up the next day or not. So you're not alone in this journey going into this new team. Just remember that the team is also having a lot of emotions around having a new leader too. So people first. One of the things we said is listen, be curious. I think one of the things how you can do that is schedule one-on-ones. Figure out a good meeting structure. So making sure that you're meeting your team one on one, whether it's going out for coffee, whether it's in an office setting, whether it's on Zoom, virtually, and how consistently are you going to meet your team members on a one on one basis? And then there might be some team ones. So are we going to do huddles? Are we going to do it daily? Are we going to do it every other week? What is the purpose of that huddle to have as a team? Or maybe it's just one big team meeting, but also knowing don't have a meeting just to have a meeting, just because it was something that you have to check off. What is the purpose of that meeting? And come in prepared to align. But I think the purpose of the very first one on ones you have should be getting to know the human first, getting to know the person first, understanding. You can ask questions like, what do you love about your job the most? What, if you can change anything about your job, what's one thing that you would change? Getting to know how they want to be led as well. Tell me about one of your favorite mentors or leaders that you've had. What did you like about them so much? So asking questions like that will give you so much insight into the person and how they want to be led and what they value and what their pain points are as well. Derek, can you think of any other questions that if you were a leader having a one-on-one with your team for the first time, what would you ask?
I think that this is where, that we've talked about it before on a few different episodes or mentioned it, that idea of like the humble confidence type of approach could really be helpful of it's like here, like talking to the employee and being like, just tell me a little bit more, like from your perspective. What do you think we do well as a team? Tell me more about the product. Like just not trying to be an expert about anything and actually coming from like almost just like I'm just going to walk in like I don't know anything and try to get the different perspectives versus again that I've studied up, I'm ready, I understand everything about this company, this product. I'm ready to go. Maybe you have, and hopefully you did prep, and study coming in, but let that go and just go back to very basic, curious questions. So everyone's thoughts about everything. Like find out the culture. It's their culture, right? You're the new person. So I think part of that assessment too is, do I need to fit into this culture? Or is this going to be part of my thing as the leader where I need to change the culture, or help manage it? And you're not going to know unless you understand the current culture.
And so understanding the current culture, one, you can ask, do you know what the team core values are? Because maybe there are written core values that no one knows about. And so now you know in your onboarding, the values that were given to you aren't actually the actual values that are happening
Uh-huh.
and the actual culture that is in there. That is very common. So I would start there just to see how familiar they are with it. You can ask questions like, who's someone on the team that you feel very safe with, that wowed you this week? So getting a little bit more specific so they also feel safe that they can answer that question because you're asking very specific questions. It's not like this very broad question too. Another one is you can say, if you were me and you're hired for this position, what would be the first thing you would tackle? And so that shows that you want feedback. I think you're changing the culture, the way they interact with leaders. You're showing them it's okay to give me feedback. And so if you were me, what would you do? So one, you're curious. And so you're actually going to learn so much from it, but also you're showing that I am okay with feedback. I ask for feedback. I don't want you to be silenced. If you see something, I want you to be able to come and speak to me. And then being able to listen to what they say and then not have an emotional reaction. Because this is the time where your team is also judging you and they're thinking, am I safe here? What kind of person is this? What kind of leader is this? How is this communication all going to work? And so the first conversations you have with your team are so crucial because you're showing them who you are and the foundation of the upcoming. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's important. That if with the idea that leadership is the kind of like the ability to influence and like the amount of influence separate from I'm the leader because I have the title. Oh, oftentimes in an organization, the person with the most influence or like an extra couple helpings of influence is not somebody with a leadership title. The, like everyone will turn and look at this person to see if they're on board or not before making a decision to move forward. So it's not an authority thing. So I think it's really important to find out too, like who carries the influence here, who is like as the new leader, I might have the title, but that doesn't mean I have the influence. And
Mm-hmm.
no one knows me, so I have no influence. Like, so who does have the influence on the team, and how do I make them an ally? Because again, I'm not going to be able to accomplish whatever it is, startup acceleration, whatever the plan is, if I don't have allies of the people
Mm-hmm.
who are actually the people with all the influence.
Yeah, true. And they have influence for a reason. So also understanding why. Why does the rest of the team trust them so much and look up to them so much? And that might give you a lot of clues of how that team operates in
Mhm.
general, what they respect, what they trust, what's going on. One of the things that I do now that I wish I knew going into a new leadership role is I do team profile. And so I have a folder, and for in the folder, I have multiple documents on each person that's on the team. And so as I have one-on-ones with them and as I'm getting to know them, I take notes of things that I think are important. So knowing who has the most influence and then being able to reflect on it and think about why, and then taking notes on some of that. Because some of the things you might write, you might debunk later on, and then you could come back and see where your biases were and assumptions were, and then change the information. But it's so helpful to remember the employee's goals. What are they trying to accomplish in life? What motivates them? In the profile, I also put down their strengths, weaknesses, when they show up as their best self, when they show up as their worst self. So an example would be, let's say an employee is really good with they show up as their best self when there's very structured step-by-step way of operating. And maybe they're at their worst self when there's too much uncertainty and unknown and they feel isolated from it. Those are really important things to know as a leader. I may not use any of this information right now, but it's something that I'm collecting that later on I can come back to. And now I know how to lead every individual a little bit different because of the information I'm gathering from them as well.
That's really good. The classified secret files on each.
You're like, can I have mine? Also,
Right.
fun fact, when I became a leader when I was like 25, Derek, you were in my little graduating team of going through Alex's first leadership.
Yeah, I need to find my file.
All right, so far we talked about first thing is knowing yourself before you even go into the situation, knowing yourself as a leader, knowing the situation, what the situation needs, knowing your team, getting to know your team, listening, being curious, observing, having one-on-ones, having team meetings. I really like what you said of finding a small win, showing them credibility, but also momentum and a good positive that happens. So what's a small win that you can do? Going forward, I think one of the biggest mistakes also new leaders do is micromanaging and controlling situations or making a change too fast. Coming in and saying, I'm going to show them, I see all these areas that we can change really quick. Let's go and do it. None of that's going to be successful if you didn't build trust first and you weren't curious, because that might happen because of something. And you just didn't ask the right questions to find out what problems that might actually cause down the road too. So I think that's an area to just like keep in mind of, am I micromanaging? Am I controlling? And am I making too many changes too big? Anything else you can think of, Derek, that's like, hey, try to avoid these?
No, I think you nailed it there, because even in that reference back to like the gold standard book that in your first 90 days, I'm pretty sure that he doesn't write about that you should act until day 90. Like there's kind of like day 1 through 30, 31 through 60, 61 through 90, and it's not until a quarter of the year into this position that you're now finally ready to act.
Makes sense. And even after the 90 days, stay consistent. Just because, and stay curious, just because you put in all this 90 days work of being curious and figuring it out, now you're on fire. Stay curious, stay consistent with communication. When in doubt, overly communicate, just communicate with people all the time. And also establish a way you want the team to work. I think that's something that's important in the first 90 days, and model the way you want people to work. So is it more collaboration that the team needs? Is it more feedback? Is it more drive? Whatever it is that the team needs, start modeling that yourself. And so they see what type of leader you are and what you value and what you want from the team at the same time.
That's good. I enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I'm better prepared too, for the next time that I need to. It's not even like I said, it's not even work related. Like I coach, like athletes and involved in like different groups on different things. Like I don't think we're having an exclusive business conversation here. I think it's like any group that you're moving into for whatever capacity like this. If you want to have like the most effective kind of group dynamic and be the most effective leader, like these are all things that would apply to that scenario. Even just
Leadership
like
is everywhere.
if you're coaching your kids like soccer team, like I still think it applies, and I still think it can help.
Yeah. Have one-on-one with those little kids.
Find out why they're
Get
there
them
and
an
why
ice
they're
cream.
playing
Find out,
soccer. Yeah,
yeah,
how serious they
what
want to
they
be with
like
it.
about the soccer the most, what they dislike about it.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right. Well, our next episode is going to be next Tuesday. In the meantime, stay curious.